My parents have always been there for me. Well, they've always been really poor though. I wasn't able to get a lot of stuff I wanted growing up, so one day I vowed to myself, I'm going to get out of this mess. I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to get a very nice place to live, and I'm going to move my parents in with me. So I did that, and I thought that they would be grateful, but when they find out my brother just bought a bigger house than me, they say that I live in a crap hole, and they're leaving me. Okay, well, you want to act like that? Let me show you what I'm capable of. One of the things I learned recently is that no matter how good you treat other people, especially your family, they can still hurt you if they want to. Not just hurt you, they can repay your kindness with evil and still insult you for helping them when they had no one else to help them. My parents and I have always shared a close bond, but recently I found out that they never appreciated anything that I did for them. I grew up in a very poor family, and when I say poor, I don't mean all those middle-class crap other people say to console themselves. My parents worked their butts off to take care of my brother and I, but no matter how hard they worked, they were only able to bring in peanuts at the end of the day. Because of this, we never threw away leftover food, because it could be our saving grace for the next couple of days. We wore thrift clothing, and clothes my parents got from the church that donated to those who could not afford to buy their own. For years, my parents and I lived in a tiny bedroom apartment, and the place was one of the craziest, crappiest places we've ever lived in. It was very low maintenance, and there was no form of comfort. Our kitchen was literally our living room. We just had to decide what we wanted to call it at a time, and the 2 rooms were so cramped up with all of our property that we could barely sleep at night without extensively praying to God to protect us from the falling objects that we packed above the bed. I think before I turned the age of 10, I was already tired of the way that we lived, and the clothes that I wore, and my stomach had gotten sick from eating one type of food for a week. So I made up my mind that I would do everything I could to go to college, get a degree, and live a better life than my parents. I always believed that the reason my parents lived such a miserable life and could not even afford to spare $1 out of their budget was that they never went to school. My dad dropped out of high school when my mom got pregnant with my oldest brother as a teenage girl, and she barely got to complete high school too because she could not handle being a young mom and a student at the same time. A year after I was born, they decided to move to a different state to start life on a fresh slate, but things turned out to be harder than you can imagine. Believe me when I say that life was too tough for us, and one of the dreadful experiences we had was a bed bug infestation at home. I was 9 years of age when that happened, and it was one of the worst moments of our lives. We could not even afford to hire somebody to take care of it professionally, so we did our best to kill them with other chemicals, and it took a whole year to eradicate them because of how fast they spread around the house. That bedbug infestation was really one of the reasons I swore to myself that I would never be financially vulnerable and miserable like this. It was a promise I made to myself, and I decided I would do whatever it takes to make my life better. After I completed high school, seeing that my parents were in no condition to help my further education, I took on all kinds of jobs to help me save up for college. I'd say the best thing was my older brother Max and I were in the same boat. He was also fed up with the kind of life that we lived and wanted to go to college too. Oh well. So we joined forces, and he left for college first. 3 years after he completed his degree, I was able to go on my own. This way, I was able to save up some money and support him while he was in school, and a couple of months after he got out, he was lucky enough to land a big-paying job. I mean, the pay wasn't massive or even really enticing, but it was better than what we're used to. While I was in college, Max supported me for a whole year, and I was able to support myself for the remaining years of my degree. It was a plan that we made because we knew we could not afford to go to college at the same time. Also, somebody had to stay back at home and look after my parents. You know, they weren't very old or anything like that, but they needed help with a couple of things around the house. During this time, I was also able to support the house financially and buy nice meals for my parents. It was something I always wanted to be able to do, and, it made my parents extremely happy. Well, There was an evening when my dad returned home to see the table set up with delicious dishes, and he bursted into tears, crying every single inch of tears out of his face. This may sound like it's not a big deal to you, but to us it was a really big deal. Till my parents grew old and they could not afford to buy a car, not even an old car. My dad worked in a factory for so many years, and it had taken its toll on its health, especially his back. My mom was a dishwasher at a restaurant, and she worked there for many years. Each time my brother and I would ask them why they weren't looking for new jobs with better pay, their response was always, half bread's better than no bread. And I believe that they thought like this because they were afraid of being jobless. Aside from wanting to be a successful woman, my dream was to take good care of my parents. At least make up for years of sacrifices and hard work that they did to raise us well. Feed us, give us a roof on our heads. Thankfully, I was able to do more for them after I completed college. I'd be lying if I said I got a job with good pay just after college. It wasn't that easy. It took me 2 years to land a job in my field, and within those 2 years, I was still supporting my parents. Every month, I'd send them a monthly allowance. I was particular about their food, and in general, I wanted them to feel relieved, so once a month, I'd go back to the town that we lived in and spend time with them and just do the things that make them happy. While I was doing all these things for my parents, Max did not do anything. He only called my parents from time to time, but never gave them anything. I never complained or tried to convince him to help our parents because I knew that he was also struggling. He had lost his job, and things were not going too well. Most times, I'd have to squeeze something little out of the little I earned to support him. Don't think I was being foolish, though, guys. It was just the way our parents raised us. We were raised to love one another as we loved ourselves, and seeing that Max was the only sibling I had, I didn't have a choice. When I landed a good-paying job, the first thing I did was to move out of the room I was living in, the studio, and I got a big 2-room apartment. The reason I rented a 2-room was because I wanted my parents to move in with me. They've been living in our old crappy apartment for more than 25 years, and I wanted to give them a change of environment, Already, I understood the financial burden I was putting on my shoulders, but I was ready for it. Aside from that, my dad's fallen sick, and his health is slowly deteriorating. His back pain's become severe, and he needed something to do to it, Somebody to watch him and take care of him. I made him resign from the factory work that he's been doing, and I covered for him financially while he rested. Since my new job required that I worked from home, I thought it would be smart to have them move in with me, so, that they could use some comfort and I could take care of my dad. After they moved in with me and my mom saw how I was taking good care of Dad, she insisted that she would not find a job because she was getting old and weak, and she needed to be pampered too, just as I was pampering Dad. I thought about it, and I did agree for her to stay for a couple of months and get some rest before go find a new job. My mom was not even earning much as a dishwasher, so I decided to take care of both of them while they rested. The apartment I rented was not a fancy apartment, it was just a better upgrade than what they were used to live in. It had very recent appliances, and you know what? It was very homely. The first time I told my fiancé that I wanted my parents to move in with me, he did not like the idea. He knew that there would be no privacy for me in my apartment, but I explained to him that moving my parents to a comfortable house was something I always wanted to do. And at that moment, I could not afford to rent another apartment for them separate, since they had no way to take care of their basic needs anyways. He ends up agreeing after seeing how passionate I was to give my parents a better life. And he also ended up being very fond of my father. My parents lived with me for 9 months, and trust me, it was way easier to tell the story than to explain what I went through in those 9 months. My mom had always been a very messy person, and all through that 9 months I had to clean the house twice a day, wash the bedrooms every day, and clean up whatever mess that she made in the kitchen while cooking. Sincerely, there was days I wanted to just kick them out of my apartment, but each time I saw how happy they were, I just couldn't do it. In all the years I spent living with my parents, I've never seen them so happy and relieved. Most times, Max would come over to the house and he would have dinner as family. I always cherished those moments, and we had our dream Thanksgiving dinner in my apartment. Throughout those 9 months, I never complained no matter how mad I was. I treated my parents with love, took them to fancy restaurants so they could enjoy themselves for once, and I even organized dates for them, and even gifts for them too, and my mom never owned more than 3 pairs of shoes, and if she did, they would be so worn out that the soles would be damaged, so I took it upon myself to buy her 7 pairs. It was a gift at once. The day I gave them to her, she made me tear up because she was literally dancing and trying on the shoes so excited. Also, each time I bought a gift for Mom, I would buy something for Dad as well. I didn't want any of them to feel left out or neglected, and trust me guys, I was happy. I was finally just living my dream life, and it made me so happy. Thanks to my fiancé, who also supported me from time to time, my parents didn't lack anything. My fiancé even paid for a short trip for them to another country, and they had so much fun on the trip. The goal of the trip was to give me a break while they were away, and you know what? It worked. Just 3 months ago, Max told us over our usual Sunday family dinner that he's gotten a job at his dream company and the pay is huge. This was great news for us because we knew how many times Max had applied to the company, but he never passed the first interview stage. My parents were happy for him, but I was happier because I knew how much that job could change Max's life, and it did. He had been without a job for months, and most times he depended on my support to remain afloat. 1 month after Max got his new job, he moved out of the apartment he was sharing with his roommate and got a fancy apartment in a suburban area. He was earning a lot of money, and considering the nature of his job, he needed a quieter neighborhood to perform well. He really deserved something fancy, and when Max got the new apartment, we all went to his housewarming party, and my parents could not stop gushing at how cute and cozy the apartment was. I'll be honest, it was way better than my apartment that, well, the rent was no child's play in. 2 days after we returned from Max's housewarming party, my parents told me that they would love to go and visit Max for a couple of days. It was my mom's idea, and you know what, I thought it's cool. They told me that they would only stay for 5 days and they would be home by the weekend, but that never happened. When the weekend came and I called to confirm what time they would be returning, my mom said that they changed their minds and they wanted to stay for a few more days, and that I would even have to call them to find out when they would be returning. Honestly, I don't think there was anything wrong with them staying a few more days. I agreed, only for Max to call me that evening and ask for something that my mom loved to eat. He told me he wanted to get a month's supply, and I could not help but wonder, why would he need a month's supply? It was at that moment that I realized my parents had no intentions to come back to my apartment. Their plan was to continue posting me until I got tired of calling them. I was mad when I found out, and I drove to Max's house to confront them. It wasn't really a confrontation. I just wanted to know why they could not simply tell me that they wanted to spend more time at Max's house, and things took the wrong turn. When I got there, I asked my mom. She starts to yell at me, and I wasn't yelling or anything. I just asked her why she lied to me, and she starts to scream. She said to my face that they were tired of the crap hole I called a house, and I should even be happy that they agreed to live with me in my rat hole. Well, geez, hearing those words cut deep. If anybody had told me that my parents, who could not stop praising me when I asked them to move in with me, would one day call my apartment a crap hole, I would have never believed it. My mom did not even show remorse for what she said, and Max stood there just staring at her. He didn't try to stop her or say anything. He just watched her speak this rude stuff to me like he enjoyed what he was witnessing. I don't even remember when I said, after everything I did for you guys. But the moment I said that, my dad raised his voice and said that I was proud. He said I've been treating them like kids, and just because I asked them to move into my house. I was shocked because no matter how annoying my parents were, I always respected them. I never talked to any of them rudely and never raised my voice at anyone. So I didn't get where, quote, treating them like kids was coming from. As if that was not enough, my mom said that she was tired of seeing my ugly face, and even though I did something for them, they never asked me. They said I did everything I did because I wanted to do it, not because they truly asked me of it. I was crying, but she didn't stop talking after she was done insulting me. She told me that Max would be coming the next day to get the rest of the stuff, and then she asked Max to send me out of the house because I was killing the mood. Max did not even say a word. Well, he just stood there like a stupid zombie, and I left his house in tears and I stayed in my car for minutes before I was able to drive back to my house. Well, thank goodness my boyfriend was at home waiting for us to have a bit of dinner, and he was shocked to see me return home in absolute tears. I explained everything that happened and all he said was, don't worry. I know how to take care of this. Oh, trust me. Then he consoled me. Guys, I felt so abandoned and could not believe that after tolerating my parents for so long and making huge sacrifices for them, they would pay me back like this. My fiancé always complained that I did not have a life of my own because I was always thinking of my parents. But I never listened to him. I just thought that since he was born into a rich family, he didn't understand what it meant to come from poverty, Well, anyways, to cut the story short, after my mom asked Max to send me out of his house, I found out that the house Max was living in belonged to my fiancé, and to pay them back for what they did to me, he increased the rent by 2 times, and now it's way beyond what Max can afford. Well, though it's been about 3 weeks now, I'm still sad about everything that's happened and how my own parents straight up abandoned me. But knowing that they won't be able to stay in that fancy apartment any longer, well, I guess you can say, it makes me happy in some sort of way. I know, pretty soon, my parents will realize that they cannot live there for long, and I wonder, where they're going to go. So am I the a-hole for allowing my fiancé to increase rent after all the insults my parents raised on me? I look forward to your comments and suggestions in the comment section below. Thank you. Update number 1. Hey guys, thank you so much for your comment. So, for those of you asking if I didn't know the house Max lived in belonged to my fiancé, no, I didn't know. Although my fiancé had told me that he owned some properties in town, he never told me, and he didn't take me to see the properties or something. That day, I went to Max's housewarming party with my parents. My fiancé was out of town, so he didn't come with us, and when we returned, I didn't think it was necessary to take him to Max's house. That aside, some people are saying that it's wrong of me to make my fiancé increase the house rent just because my parents no longer liked my home. You all have no idea what I'm even talking about, right? After all I did for my parents, I did not expect to be repaid in such a way. I've only been in my apartment for a year, and my parents stayed with me for 9 months. They became a huge part of me, and waking up to this empty house is something I'm still used to, just to. As my fiancé said, I didn't have a life of my own because everything I did revolved around my parents. I just wanted to make them happy and at least give them a whole year of happiness. My dad is in his 50s, and he even admitted to me that the last time he was so happy was when he was a kid. If you were in my shoes, you all would have done the same thing I did in a heartbeat. Nobody loves to see the ones they love suffer, and I did what any child who loves his or her parents would do. So many people have a terrible relationship with their parents, so I don't expect you all to understand what it means to have a strong and close bond with your family. Now, for the main reason I made this update, the last time I saw Max or spoke to him was the evening my mom told him to kick me out of the house, and he never came to get my parents' stuff. So, 2 days ago, Max also came and called, but I did not answer. He sent voicemails, but I refused to listen to them, and I don't have any plans to do so. I don't know how people do it. I mean, geez. You know so well that you're not on good terms with somebody, but think it's cool to just call them out of the blue to do what exactly? Pick up from where you left off? That evening, it wasn't only my parents that betrayed me. Max betrayed me too. I never told anyone this, but Max was the same person who told me it was a foolish idea to move our parents to live with me, and that I was stupid for doing such a thing. My guess is he saw how happy my parents were in my home, and he wanted to do the same thing. Anyways, I'm glad that he has them now, so he can go through everything I went through while they were with me. Anyways, thank you to everybody for your comments and suggestions. I'll make another update really soon. Update number 2. Hey guys, so I really appreciate your comments. To be honest, I love all of the comments and suggestions, and I'm implementing most of them. I've already had a plan just in case things go the way I'm thinking it's going to go. Speaking of my parents, I haven't heard from them since then, and they're probably enjoying their last days in Max's fancy apartment, LOL. Max has been calling my phone almost every day now, and yesterday he even showed up at my apartment, unannounced completely. Unfortunately for him, when he came, my fiancé was the one at home. And already, Max and my fiancé don't get along very well. Max thinks my fiancé is always showing off, but in reality, he's not that kind of person. He's just a calm guy who doesn't love to brag about his parents' wealth, but at the same time, he can't wear any knockoffs, LOL. Back to what I was saying. So, when my fiancé met Max at the door, their conversation did not last long. He only told my fiancé that he's been trying to reach me and that I should please call him back and that he really needed to talk to me. So, my fiancé delivered the message when I returned home and convinced me to call Max and find out what he wanted to talk about, as if we did not know. When I called Max, the first thing he did was apologize for how he reacted that day and tried to talk to me like we were old buddies. Oh, from the way I sounded over the phone, guys, he could tell that I was still mad at him, And I guess it was one of the reasons he could not say everything he wanted to say. All he said was that he wanted to apologize for how he reacted and how my parents spoke to me. Maybe he was expecting I would ask my parents after he apologized, but I did not. I just told him that I'd heard him, and we had the moment of silence for a minute before ending the call. I know so well that he's trying to settle things between us, so we can become friends again, and then he can move my parents back to my house, but that's not ever happening. I don't think Max and I can ever go way to the way that we used to be. And talk more about my parents. Well, up till now, each time I remember what my parents said to me, it hurts freshly, and I don't think I'll be forgetting their words anytime soon. I have my mind made up. I don't want my parents under my roof anymore. After all, what good did my crap hole do for them? I mean, I'm not going to spend my hard-earned money on ingrates anymore, and nobody can get me to change my mind. Not even my fiancé himself. Well, I promise to make another update soon. I just wanted to fill you guys in on what is going on. Thank you. Final update. Hey guys, you all won't believe how this went down. In fact, I didn't even expect that things would happen this fast. So exactly a week after I had that call with Max, he called again and told me that my parents wanted to move back with me. The minute he called and he was struggling to talk, I knew whatever he wanted to say had something to do with my parents. His excuse was that his rent had been increased threefold, and he could not afford to pay it, so he needs to move to a cheaper house, and he did not want my parents to come with him. Yet. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear him say those words. Immediately after he finished yapping, I told him that I knew about the rent increment, and he sounded shocked. When he asked how I got to know about it, I told him that I found out recently that the house belonged to my fiancé, and he needed an increase of the rent because he thought the apartment was way too cheap for the standard. Even though I wasn't there to see his face, I could tell from his voice that he was shocked. I could even hear my parents' voice from the background confirming with Max if my fiancé really owned the building and the apartment that they lived in. While they were soaking it all in, I used the opportunity to Max. Well, I didn't want our parents anymore in the house that I have, and they should just pretend like their ugly daughter no longer exists, because no, I don't exist. Immediately after I said that, my mom took the phone from Max and began to apologize. She said that she did not mean anything she said, and she was only speaking out of anger. I told her it didn't matter anymore, and that she need not explain. I don't know if Max snatched the phone from her, because I heard a mild argument, and the next voice I heard was Max's. He said that he looked up the name of the house owner, and he realized that I was not lying. He starts to beg, plead that I talk to my fiancé to decrease the rent, well, to its former price. Yeah, I told him that's impossible. I thought things would end there, but Max yelled at my parents to come and join him and beg me. Immediately, my mom starts to plead. I rained insults down upon her, and I told her she should be ashamed to beg somebody that lives in a crap hole to help reduce their rent, and I made sure that I said other hurtful words to her and Dad. I'd say the funniest part is, guys, that Max was threatening them that if they didn't beg me to change my mind, he's going to kick them out the same day. Well, I ended the call on Max and blocked his number. And I blocked my mom and dad's number. To shorten the story up a bit, my fiancé evicted them from the house without remorse, and they still call him every day begging that he changes his mind. So, it's been a week, and no one's tried to reach me. Maybe it was them who called with all those strange numbers. I blocked it anyways. I never thought I'd say this, but I feel so fulfilled. I wonder where Max and my parents live now, and I wonder how Max is coping with two toxic, demanding, unemployed parents. Well, I'll cut the pretense. I don't give a crap about them, and I hope that they suffer. It's what they deserve. I'm not one of those girls that you can just insult and then use me to sweep things under the carpet just because you said sorry. Well, anyways, that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for all your ideas, your comments, your suggestions. You are all the real deal. Best wishes. Alright, so I want to go ahead and talk about one of the comments that I saw in the original post and some of the updates that was just coming back and forth, and people were arguing left and right. The biggest issue is, a lot of people were definitely in agreement to how OP went about the situation, and everybody could agree that OP was in a toxic situation, but this is where a lot of people separated. They think that what OP did by convincing her fiancé to raise the price 3x was ridiculous, was too much, it was petty, and she's doing all this simply because her parents made fun of what she lived in. So I want to know, do you guys think putting OP's brother and OP's mom and dad into a very serious predicament, having to either be homeless, find another place to live, is all so petty, considering it wasn't even that big of a deal what the parents said? Some of the commenters, like I said, do not agree with that. Some of them are saying, no, OP deserved to raise the price to teach them a lesson. I want to know which side you guys are on. So let's talk about it in our comment section down below. And guys, if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories every single day. So if you guys want to be a part of these daily readings, consider subscribing to the channel. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind, guys. Peace.